If you've ever been driving your car down the highway and start thinking about all the things that you need to do when you get home, and that list starts getting longer and longer and longer, and you start thinking, how the heck am I gonna do all of this? That's the feeling of overwhelm. I'm gonna try to help you prevent today by doing my 3-step method that I do on Sundays to reset and start my week. Step number 1 is to do what I call a brain dump. Luna is trying to take the tripod down, so she's gonna join me for this part. A brain dump is essentially where you take everything that's floating around in your head, everything that's on all of your to-do list, all of those post-it notes that you've stuck around to remind you to do things, and you put it all in one place. I recommend doing this on paper. I do a notebook typically with this, but you can do notes on your phone. You can do it electronically if you want to, or if you have a whiteboard or something like that. All of those are options, whatever works for you. Just do whatever you need to get it out of your brain. When you leave all your to-do list things in your head, you're more likely to forget them. It increases your anxiety because you start worrying about forgetting the things that you need to remember, and it's just a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. You can do it any day of the week, but I typically do it on Sundays, and I set about an hour aside to go through all of these tasks, starting with the brain dump. Step number 2 is to organize that list of to-dos that you just created. Now, you're gonna have some things on there that are very small, like maybe taking a letter to the post office or just to your mailbox. And then you're gonna have larger tasks that may be studying for exam or completing a project. I go through and look at each task and try to figure out how much time they're going to take. If it takes less than 5 minutes to complete, I'm going to do it immediately after completing my brain dump, which is why I set aside such a long period of time, not because it's going to take me an hour to do the brain dump and then organize this list, but so I can also complete those 5-minute tasks, which may be going through some mail that's sitting on the table that I haven't gone through, or putting away the stuff that's on my bathroom counter. If I can do it in less than 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to do it immediately so it gets off my list and it helps you feel a little bit more accomplished. A word of warning with those things that are going to take a little bit more time. If you are not sure how long it's going to take, whatever number pops into your head, most likely you need to double it. If you are not sure, we tend to overestimate the things that we can get done in a day and underestimate the things we can do in a year. That means if you're like most people, whatever time frame that you decide that it's going to take you, it's going to take you longer. If you realize as you go through this list, there's a ton of things on there that you just really don't know how long they take you, it's a perfect time to start tracking that. So what I recommend you do is once you get to one of those tasks that you weren't really sure about on your list, you can mark those with a star or maybe just remember them, however you want to do it. Then you can start a timer and see how long it actually takes you. The other thing I recommend is tracking how much time you are spending doing things that are not on your to-do list, like scrolling through Instagram. Obviously, social media is part of my life. You are here on YouTube with me, and I love that. But we waste so much time scrolling or sitting in front of the TV, not actually being productive. And while I think it's important to rest, if you have a time block at that moment where you're supposed to be doing something and you're not actually focusing on that task, that's more of your issue than it was the time that it's going to take you to complete that project in the first place. So when you start tracking, make sure you're doing it distraction-free so you know how long it actually is going to take you to complete the task. The next thing I'm going to recommend is time blocking. I don't recommend going weeks and weeks in advance. Try to keep this to 1 week, but add in the tasks that have set dates or set due dates that need to be done during that week. You've set the time frame the task is going to be done, and sometimes you're going to have to break up tasks. So if you think it's going to take 2 hours, you may not have a 2-hour block available, but you may have a couple 30-minute blocks and then an hour block over here that you can get all of those things completed. With your set dates and time commitments, don't forget to add things like when you're going to eat your meals or prep for dinner, or you're going to go to a workout class. Those things are just as important as the things that have a set deadline or due date. And if you don't add them to your calendar, what you're gonna find is you're gonna add more tasks than you can do in a week, and those things are gonna be left out. Don't do that to yourself. So once you have your set dates and commitments, you can add in the other things that are absolutely necessary to get through your week. Be honest, is this something that must happen this week, or can it be moved to another week if it doesn't get done? Another tip I recommend is no more than 3 major tasks in a single day. Let's be honest, if something is going to take more than an hour or 2 to complete, there are only so many hours in the day, and you have to eat, you have to get ready for work and shower, and you have to take bathroom breaks, and you also need to get ready for bed, and you need to prep for dinner. All of those things take your time. You're not going to be able to complete a bunch of large tasks in one day, so if part of the reason reason you're overwhelmed is your list has 10 or 12 things that you think you're gonna get done in a day. That's absolutely not realistic. So make sure you're keeping that list to 3. If you can move past that and do more, that's great. That's a bonus. But don't add that on your list and bank on that every single day, because you're just gonna leave yourself disappointed. For everything that's left on your list now that's not an absolute necessity and isn't one of those set dates, then you have to decide if it even deserves a place on your list this week. Based on your amount of time that you have left in the week, you want to see if it can move to next week. Is it a task that you can delegate to somebody else or use some sort of service to help you do it? For example, you look and you don't have a great amount of time to go get groceries, so maybe you just decide to order grocery pickup and you pick it up on your way home from work on Monday. Sometimes you're going to look at a task and be like, okay, that's not really necessary. I don't have to do this. Remove it from your list. Do this until all of the tasks that you had on your brain dump have been accounted for in some way, whether they were removed from your list on your 5 to 10 minute to-do list or have been time blocked on your calendar. And the last step, while sounds so simple, is probably the hardest, and that is to follow through with your plan. Now, that doesn't mean things aren't going to change. Priorities change. You may have an appointment come up or a friend come in town, and you're going to have to move your schedule around. Give yourself some grace when that happens, but also don't let scrolling through social media or pushing aside things that are must to do things that would be nice when you really have priority deadlines on your plate. For example, if you're a student and you have tests coming up, this is where you run into procrastination. This is where you run into cramming the night before. It's going to take some work and discipline, especially if you are prone to distractions or procrastination. But if you follow through on the plan that you created, you're going to feel so much less overwhelmed. And the next time you do your brain dump, it's not going to take as long because you've crossed so many things off of your list that needed to get done. And you're going to get better and better at knowing what is a priority, what can wait till later, and what even deserves to be on your brain dump list in the first place. This is the exact method that I have used for years to keep my overwhelm under control. I used this as a student, I perfected it as a resident, and I've continued to use it as a new practitioner pharmacist who also runs her own business. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you hit subscribe for more videos like this one coming your way. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!